Of course, now let's bring in Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, security expert and head of the Department of Law, Safety and Security Management at the Tshwane University. Prof, a very good afternoon to you and thank you so much for your time. So, Police Minister's testimony, as we've also heard from Kenny there, was largely laying the foundation of what would be his evidence at large, somewhat distancing himself from operations of SABC. Based on what we heard today, what do you make of Mchunu's first day, firstly, and the emphasis that the PKTT was never a formalized unit, but a time-bound project?
Good afternoon. Today's testimony, I think they went for the selective disclosure approach with a bit of narrative management, where because they're using bureaucratic justification by citing your 2019 feasibility study, right, to frame legitimate administrative decision. So I think that is the approach, is trying to lay a ground for South Africans to understand that there was a 2019 work study which was thoroughly done, which was commissioned, and therefore suggested certain issues in the PKTT. That is why I'm saying is using what we call a selective disclosure approach. And today from his testimony, as he talks about your a commissioned study or work study or feasibility study, he's very careful, unlike before. Remember, in the previous testimony, he was openly or boldly mentioning the so-called Professor De Haas. Now he's taking us to another general or another figure in the SAPS that handled that particular feasibility study. In the ad hoc committee, he said, no, I was advised by findings from feasibility study conducted by Professor De Haas. So he's very careful. So I found him very cagey, very strategic, and through the selective disclosure approach to justify decisions. And he's also now dragging Masemola into the whole equation to justify that, no, from Masemola's understanding, this was just a project that could be dealt with at any time. Hence, his decisions may be around the disbandment. So he's trying to justify administrative decision with it and include bit of consultation here and there, because he understands now that other witnesses testify to indicate that there was never consultation. But the ground he laid today suggests that there were meetings, and you wonder which meetings in particular focused on the PKTT. That is why I'm saying he's very selective and strategic to drive a particular narrative to justify a decision that he by now knows many witnesses, even your legal experts, have identified it as overstepping. By the time we arrive at overstepping question, he would have laid this ground that no, administratively, it was justified because of the 2019 work study. But the findings of the work study or feasibility study has not been extensively shared. That would then talk to the decision, that would then talk to finances or many other issues that were raised or faced within the PKTT. That would have justified the disbandment. However, he's coming in with an understanding that the immediate disbandment does not exist, but a disbandment will only exist and be justifiable when there's a scientific study approved and in consultation with the National Commissioner, of which is a disparity. I find it to be shaky here and there.
I think I agree with you, especially when you're talking about the strategic, point of his testimony, because if you look at some of those allegations, were basically saying that he was interfering. And, he was also had criminal motivation. So I think it was very important for him then to lay that ground and that foundation. But you mentioned, National Commissioner Masemola. Was Mchunu directly contradicting the National Commissioner's parliamentary statements about, these specialized units already being established? How significant is this inconsistency for understanding just the internal tensions within SAPS itself?
Remember, he has to have come with a strategy to counter-argue, and I think he leaned towards what Masemola has identified, or how these task teams were explained and the mandates and so forth. So he's just coming in to contradict or to counter-argue. Unfortunately, he chose an angle that I don't think going forward is going to explain in greater detail, because it was very clear from all the other witnesses, particularly the National Commissioner, who then heard of the disbandment while on leave. Then now, if you honestly spoke to or consulted or had a meeting, which is something that we've never had, because there has not been evidence of the meetings or discussions, what this committee could do when it now faced with questionable evidence, it should be substantiated by facts. Because if there was a meeting or discussions with Masemola, how were they recorded, wherein the tax team is classified in a manner in which is presenting it today, that it was just a temporary project, which can, because with that suggest there shouldn't be much attention to it. It can be disbanded at any time. Where are the records that suggest that? But otherwise, going forward, I'm more interested in how he's going to counter-argue the relations with controversial figures that he boldly stated that he has none. And now we know that the commission is in possession of the phone call records where him as the minister was calling Brown Mohosi, whom he claimed to have no relations with during the committee, in the ad hoc committee. So we are highly interested in hearing how he's going to counter-argue that, looking in his credibility as a witness, because now this commission established that there was also a meeting. Even the ad hoc committee established that there was a meeting organized by chief of staff outside the minister's office, but yet the minister under oath explained a different narrative, that he never met Brown Mohosi. So I'm largely interested in also the CFO's narrative, because she came boldly to identify and provided evidence on how she was never consulted. But in the ad hoc committee, the minister specified how he utilizes financial reports advised by CFO. So there are many inconsistencies, but we take note of the narrative foundation he laid today. And I think the commission, like any other questionable witness, they are going to take him to task. I'm sure they've already verified facts here and there, and is going to account.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prof. And of course, not only is he appearing on Thursday, but also on Friday, as we've heard from his one of his legal team, Advocate Mugaitobi, they will have a chance to re-examine him on Friday, or asked for the right to re-examine on Friday. But let's leave it there for now. Professor Kholofelo Rakubu, a security expert and head of the Department of Law, Safety and Security Management at the Tshwane University.